Hi everyone, Movie 9 Minutes would like to introduce a sci-fi movie, White Christmas. This is a special episode on the 2014 Christmas theme of the Black Mirror series. The episodes in the movie will definitely take you from surprise to surprise. Let's watch the movie together. Opening the movie is a scene of white snow covering the sky. In the house, Joe is restless. He went into the kitchen and turned off the player playing a Christmas song. That made Matt, who was listening to music a little, slightly displeased. He was preparing Christmas dinner for two. Matt wants to talk to the guy living in the same house. This year is already the 5th Christmas they share. In order to make Joe open his heart to continue the story, Matt took the initiative to share his past. Previously, he was very good at grasping human psychology. Thanks to that ability, he works as a love guru for many people. He directly guides them through a Z-Eyes connection system. Thanks to that, he can see all that the opponent is looking at. That day, Matt accepted instructions for a guy named Harry. Harry walks into the corporate employee Christmas party. He is quickly attracted to a black-haired girl named Jennifer, but Matt advised Harry to flirt with the blonde standing beside. Because of psychology, everyone wants to be noticed by others, so surely Jennifer will also join the talk sooner or later. But Matt didn't expect that Jennifer did not seem to notice that. Matt was extremely confused. He immediately discussed with Fellowship on how to help Harry. Finally, Matt decided to let Harry play the role of a bored, angry, lonely person just like the girl Jennifer herself. Unexpectedly, his plan was successful and those two talked more and more intimately. When Matt was telling a story, Joe is distracted again by the sound of the clock bell on the wall. He said he had never seen it. Matt was surprised. In 5 years? And he continued his story. It turns out, Harry was too fond of the girl, so he wanted to leave the party so that the two of you could have some privacy. He wanted to disconnect the eyes. This made the guru team unhappy at all. Jennifer, from a confused and introverted girl, suddenly became very proactive. She leaned forward and kissed Harry and even invited him home. Everything happened so quickly. The guru team were all excited about what was going to happen. But it turned out that Jennifer took Harry home not because she wanted to have fun with him. She gave him a poisonous drink, wanting both of them to commit suicide. Matt, seeing that the situation is not good, immediately tells Harry to leave immediately. But it was too late. Jennifer is a patient with schizophrenia. Seeing Harry talking over Z-Eyes connection, she thought he had the same hallucinations as she did, hence immediately assumed that their meeting is destiny. She decided to rescue him. Matt's team extremely panicked. To avoid responsibility, Matt asked everyone to remove the evidence. It was just that he was not careful being discovered by his wife. In anger, Matt's wife used the Z-Eyes block function, and she brought their daughter out of the house. Since then, Matt can no longer see his wife and children. Joe, after hearing Matt's story, also seems to have feelings. Two people drinking together, Matt continued. In fact, being a love guru is not his main job. A girl named Greta is lying in bed waiting for surgery. Then, she immediately found herself lying on the bed. It seemed that the doctors were taking her out of her brain. This singularity made her extremely frightened. But there is no way to protest. The only thing she can do is obediently insert it into an egg-shaped device called a cookie. Then she woke up and met Matt. Matt says she's actually just a copy of her own consciousness right now. In other words, it is the electronic brain stored in cookies. As it turned out, Greta really wanted to enjoy a more modern, comfortable life. She asked for a surgery, inoculate a storage device into the cerebrum. In about 1 to 2 weeks, the device will replicate all of the original's behavior and mindset, thereby creating a complete copy of consciousness that can understand all about herself. It will support Greta takes care of everyday chores. But the clone completely did not want to become such a puppet. She does not agree to become the butler of her own house. Matt adjusted the time immediately, let the Greta clone feel the loneliness for 3 weeks. That made her extremely panicked, but not enough to make her accept. Matt continued to adjust the time. He chose to fast forward 6 months later. Once people have been lonely for so long, emptiness will make themselves feel useless and will eventually be subdued. Indeed, the torment had worked. Greta's encrypted copy of consciousness accepted reality, become a dedicated butler to the original Greta. For Greta, science and technology have enabled her to enjoy a very comfortable life. But for the Greta clone, it was a lifelong torment. In other words, she had become a slave to her own satisfaction. Joe heard and thought it was cruel. "If you think so, then you're a really nice person," said Matt. It was that sentence that made Joe wonder, hesitated for a while. Finally, he decided to share with Matt his story. The girl he loves the most is Beth. Although her father completely dislikes him, but that does not stop the love of two people. After a period of passionate love, for some reason, Beth's attitude became more and more cold. In a time inviting two friends Tim and Beta couple, to dinner. Beth was acting strangely, and she didn't say a word for the whole meal. Beta's girlfriend is delighted to share that the two of them are engaged. Tim seems a bit awkward. After dinner, Beth says she wants to go to rest first, leaving Joe alone. While disposing of trash, he accidentally saw Beth's pregnancy test stick in it. Turns out, she was pregnant. This made Joe overjoyed. He even imagined his family's beautiful future. But what Joe did not expect was Beth absolutely doesn't want this baby. He wondered why his girlfriend became so cruel. In anger, Joe loudly scolded Beth. The results made her decide to block him and leave. He thought that quarrel would end soon. But from that day, Beth did not return. Eyes blocked everything that had her, including pictures. One day, Joe met Beth again. Turns out, she kept the baby. Joe rushed to her, using every ways to make she remove the block for him. Beth, in the psychological turmoil of the pregnant woman, began to panic, calling for help. Joe is quickly captured by the police. Beth's block against him is protected by law. He will not be within 10 meters of Beth. If he violates, he will go to jail. Joe knows every Christmas Beth goes to her father's house, so that day, he went there, watching them from afar. Unexpectedly, the government also blocks his child, makes him unable to know what his child's face is like. Every year it goes on Christmas he all went there, quietly watching his child grows. Suddenly one day the news on TV said Beth died in a train accident. The block also disappeared with her dad. It has been a long time since Joe can look back at the figure of the person he loves. He broke down in tears, but looking on the positive side, he can see his baby later. As Christmas approached, he prepared a snowball, decided to go to Beth's father's house to find a daughter. After seeing the little girl, Joe is completely surprised. She has an Asian hybrid face just like Tim. He panicked into the house, relived their past and the appearance of that man. Joe understood everything. Beth's father saw him. He was very surprised and wanted to kick him out of the house. But the nostalgia that had been contained for so long suddenly turned into hatred. Joe lost his mind, hit the man in the head with a snowball and killed him. After the rage, he deeply regretted it. Then Joe also suddenly found out the clock in that kitchen was exactly like the clock he mentioned earlier. He is ambiguous between past and reality. But Matt continued to ask, wanting him to say what happened after that. Joe continued suffering. That day, after he left the house, Beth's daughter went out alone to seek help, and the innocent girl froze in the white snow. Joe never thought that everything would end like this. Therefore, when faced with the questioning of the police, all he did is just be silent. For him, this tragedy, if not admitted, it would just be like a nightmare. In the end, Joe accepted reality. He pleaded guilty. This makes Matt very happy. He said, "I told you I can do it." And then Matt mysteriously disappeared, leaving Joe alone vaguely in the kitchen. At the same time, Matt pulled his head out of a special device. Turns out, just now they were in a copy of Joe Cookie, because he insisted on keeping quiet. After 2 days of interrogation, the police did not get any results, so they immediately turned to Matt, who wanted to atone come help them. Matt adjusted the timing of Matt's clone to 5 years. In fact, the whole process took only 70 minutes. Joe's confession set Matt free, but at the same time Matt also commits a sex offender and did not report it, so he still has to be punished. That is, being blocked by everyone. Matt walked out of the police station. In his eyes, everyone turned into unclear gray shapes. In the eyes of people, Matt turns into a red shape, which means that everyone knows he is a sex offender, wants to stay away. Perhaps, this punishment is more cruel than being in prison. On the other hand, for Joe, his admission of the cookie has enough evidence to convict him. Before leaving, a policeman played with the device, turned on the Christmas song that was played when Joe killed Beth's dad. 1 minute setting time equals 1,000 years in Cookie. The log house had turned into Beth's father's house. Joe's clone goes back and forth in the small kitchen, desperate with all the memories of the murder. He smashed the radio playing music, but that action is just meaningless. Christmas has completely turned into a nightmare. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe to the channel and comment on your opinion below.